First of all, let's create a brand new program where we can test out some of the logic we will build. So I'm going to take a copy of the Z OpenSQL 1 program that we used in the previous module. With the program name in the text box, just click the copy button and we'll give our program a brand new name. Let's call this Logic 1. Z Logic 1. And we'll just choose copy, local object, and our program has been duplicated. So let's go into change mode and we'll tidy the program up a little bit. And what we will do is just keep this first section and make some space. So when we talk about control structures, we are talking about blocks of code that allow us to make a decision. And based on that decision, we can have a number of different outcomes. Let's take a look at the if statement to explain the basic logic of control structures. Now, the if statement is probably the most common control structure that is found in just about every programming language there is. The syntax of the if statement does vary from language to language, but its use is pretty much universal. So if we have a look at the piece of code that we created in the last module, we have this if statement. If a logical expression, do something. And then we have an addition saying else, do something else. And then the end of the if statement. So if we were to just talk about it in pseudocode, we would just say if a logical expression we would then do something, and then we would end our if statement. So you can see if starts the expression and the end if is the end of the expression. So this allows us to see that a control structure has a start with the if statement here, and it terminates with our end if statement. Both of our statements belong together, and every control structure we create will always have a start and an end. Now, when we break our program up into smaller tasks, we will break these tasks up that would allow us to branch off in the middle and do some other smaller task, which in turn could have its own if statements, its own control structures, to do even smaller tasks. When we have defined our control structure, what we put between the start and the end determines what tasks are going to be performed as subtasks. We branch off and do something else, or we repeat a whole bunch of tasks in between our control structure in what we call loops. Things are going to get a lot more interesting from now on. We will be using control structures like the if statement to determine the flow of our program, to execute different subtasks or branches of our program, and to perform loops. So to begin with, I'm going to comment out all this code for now. And I'm going to write some code here and see if you can determine what's going to happen. And to do this, let's make use of the pattern tool. So I'm going to click the pattern button, Ctrl F6, which brings up the insert statement dialog box. And all I'm going to do is go down to the bottom where it says other pattern and just put in if. Now what this has done, it's brought back the structure of an if statement that we can follow as a guide, so that for those that are new to ABAP, you will get the syntax right and you won't have to worry too much about the actual placement of the full stops and so on. So we have our if statement. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to create a data statement that's going to hold an employee's surname. So I'm just going to create a field called surname. A type character. I'll give it a length of 15 and pretty it up. We're going to set our surname to a value. And then we'll use the if statement So there you can see I've written some logic. Now can you work out what that's going to do? It's pretty easy. Let's execute the program and see what it says. Oops. Silly me, been using the wrong quotes. And again. Oh, I do apologise. There you go, you've won a car. So yeah, this is a very simple if statement, just saying if the surname is equal to Smith, and of course it is because we've set the surname to Smith already, it performs a branch of our program. So let's extend this program to include the Elsif statement. It's quite simple. Let's say now if Smith equals Brown, this time you've won a boat. Now as you can imagine, our surname equals Smith, so you're going to win a car every time. But let's change it to Brown. And now you can see the outcome is you've won a boat. So what we've done here is the first if statement was not true. Therefore, this branch of the program was not executed. So it went down to the next branch in the statement, which is the else if. Else if surname is Brown, which it is, then it will write this branch of the if statement. And we can keep on with the else if. We can, repeat it any number of times. The only problem is I may run out of prizes. So this one is a plane. How fortunate for being named Mr. Jones. Oh, didn't notice I had the extra full stop there. And lastly, let's change this one to Andrews. And what does Mr. Andrews win? He's very fortunate. He wins a house. So as you can see, we can keep going on with this structure, and depending on what is true, different branches of this logic block will be executed. Jones, you've won a plane. Andrews, you've won a house. Now the last part is the else statement. And the else comes in when it's the last piece of your if block. So we could say, if your name isn't any of these, what are you going to win? Unlucky. You go home empty-handed. So by introducing these different else if statements and the else statements, there is always going to be an outcome that is performed depending on the value of surname. We have taken care of every single possibility. If it's Smith, we're going to do this. If it's Brown, we're going to win a boat. If it's Jones, a plane, Andrews, a house, anything else, we're going to do this block of code. So the if statement is very powerful, and it is the key logic statement used in just about every program going to determine the flow of your program.